Hi everybody, Brian here. So the episode that you're about to either listen to or watch is with Tori Spelling. And it was an incredible conversation. And we ended up turning it into a two-parter. But we here at Oldish decided that the part that we had recorded for our after the show bonus material, we spoke about Shannon Doherty. And we felt that people who are fans of the show, fans of Shannon, fans of 90210 in general, deserve to be able to watch or listen to this. So we decided to make it available to everyone to watch and view. I think it's important. I think it's important for people that loved her and cared about her to hear from some people that loved her and cared about her as well. Thank you for watching and listening. If you are at YouTube, hit the subscribe button, please. It means the world to us, and it allows us to continue making this podcast for you all, which we love doing. Thanks for being here. I haven't seen you two sitting together since you were like 12.
Oh, right.
Really?
That's probably true.
Of course.
Yeah.
When was the last time that I saw you two in the same room together? Think about that.
Must have been on the set of 90210.
We got away with so much stuff. Thank God, because it was the 90s. I've never had a friend that grew up the way you guys did. Where do you think that comes from?
I know where it comes from. It literally takes me back to first grade. You know, it was constantly like, oh, your dad has all this money and you guys have a limo, and being made fun of, that I was like, in my head, like, I just want to fit in. I want to be accepted. And I just wish they could take that out and just know me. I can remember our last conversation and the last thing we said to each other before those 18 years.
You were crying.
I was crying.
On set, and you were like, I'm afraid that we're going to lose touch.
And that was the last time we spoke for 18 years.
What? How did that happen?
Oldish, the show where age-old questions meet new-age answers. With your hosts, Randy Spelling, Brian Austin Green, and Sharna Burgess.
Tori Spelling, welcome to Oldish. That was better, right? So everybody knows we did this before, and so we just did it again. I sounded unenthused, and it was almost ominous.
It was a little ominous, but you said this has been building for a long time to have us here.
Yeah, it has. So let me get into that.
Well, first, let me just say that the second time around, I'm
this
a little
is that
less,
narcissist thing going on.
That's you, not me. Okay, I'm a little less traumatized you saying my full name, but it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tori. One thing about Tori, if anyone doesn't
You have
know
to tell
that,
him. Oh,
if
you're telling
I'm telling the
your
listeners who may not know, to give them backstory and context, that if I ever say your whole name, you look at me as if I've committed a crime.
Same, Bray? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you don't say T or Tor or something, she's like, "Why did you just call me by my name?"
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, what do you mean? It's
and
your
then
name.
and your name's just gotten shorter and shorter too, because that's actually. I mean, I'm not going to say your actual name, but it's
Now you
Tori's
just
a
look at her.
hyphenated version.
Now you just go,
right? Yeah. She's like Prince. She's now a symbol. So I was saying this before to Randy. You know, it's funny for me because for majority of my life with you, we have a connection. Randy and I always had a connection of Randy being your little brother. So to now be doing this podcast with him and to have spent the amount of time with him that I now have a completely separate connection with Randy and a relationship with him. So now to sit with the two of you is like, I know you, but I know you also. Like it's really interesting to sit across from the two of you, because I haven't seen you two sitting together since you were like 12.
oh, right. That's
Really?
probably true.
Of course.
Yeah.
When was the last time that I saw you two in the same room together? Think about that.
That's true.
Must have been on the set of 90210. Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy.
Crazy.
So
I'm
how
so
is it?
proud of you guys.
How is it for you two
Thank
now
you.
sitting next to each other doing this? How does this feel? Are you nervous about this, Randy? Are you nervous about this story?
No, I'm just freaked out. Like that you pointed that out, and all three of us are now here. So
And you're freaked out that I keep saying Tori.
Right, Tori.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something really special. It's hard to describe this, but we talk, right? And we talk, but sitting in a room in this intimate setting, there's just something different. I don't know if it's a different energy, a different feeling, but it feels like we're sitting and we're talking from a bird's eye view and looking at life where we don't always get to do. And, you know, yes, we get to share that, but...
And life is crazy. I mean,
Life is crazy.
Collectively, between the three of us sitting in this room, we've gone through a lot of stuff. A lot of living.
Yeah.
Kids, marriage is... like, you know,
Yep.
I'll plural that just at the end. So yeah, we have a lot to share and get into. This is exciting for
it
me.
is cool to be like we're equals now.
Yeah.
Like it's all like we're all the same age. We're all adults now. That is, I never thought of that.
Yeah, it's
Remember
interesting,
you used to come
right?
to set and you'd be like, "I'm coming to protect you today," and like,
Did I?
yeah.
What was I protecting you from?
I don't know. I would just be like,
From me.
From Brian.
never. No, it was like, I don't know. If I was like, oh, it's hard, I'm scared to speak up about doing something and doing that, you'd be like, you took the day off school once. You
Did
asked
I
Dad,
really?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
To come,
You did.
did I help you speak
You and
up?
Brian. Schlesinger, not you.
Oh, I do remember that. Actually, I do remember that. I do. Yes.
There's
there was
more
a
story
relation
there, and we
there
won't
was
get
a
into it.
I mean, there was a relationship that you were in, and there were some things that were going down. And I was 15 now and
Yeah.
working out, so
Yeah.
even I was
You
a
were
little
tough.
puffed up, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna protect my older sister, and so we went to set just to make sure that if anyone showed up or something happened, that we were there to protect her.
Yeah.
I forgot about
What
that.
he said. Yes.
That's right.
So
That's
now you guys, so you were both living in the manor together. Crazy opulent lifestyle, right?
Interestingly enough about the manor, so we grew up at this other house on the same street. We lived on North Mapleton Drive when I was born,
Right.
and then we
I think I
moved
heard about that place as the manor then was being built. You
as
guys
it
were
was
still living
being
in
built.
that place.
We were still living there, and then when we moved to the manor, you were only there for a year and a half, maybe about a year and a half.
before you got the place on Wilshire.
Right.
Yeah.
So we moved from a 10,000 square foot house on one side of Mapleton to a 56,000 square foot house on the south side of Mapleton.
That fucking house.
I think you were at the first house once.
No,
Not
I
the
never
read-
was. I was only
the
at the
read-through?
manor. No.
For 90210?
No, I never.
Really?
I don't think I had more than like 2 lines in the pilot for the
Oh,
like I
okay.
wasn't
Ah,
I was
okay.
barely in the show for like the first 4 episodes or so, it seems. Like
They saw you dancing, and they were like, "We should write more lines."
That was
for
at the
Brian."
rap party at the end of season 1. They were like, "There's really something here." So yeah, you were Tori was in the place on Wilshire, which I then hung out there a lot. You had the what was it, like a condo kind of setup up there? I remember.
I did.
We used to all hang out up there. But I mean, I remember running through the downstairs area where the bar and the bowling alley were, and seeing like a panel on the wall, and Tori going, "I have no idea what's back there." And I was like, "Let's go look." And at the
gosh.
end,
We did.
at the very end of the bowling alley, on the right-hand side, there was a panel, and it popped open, and then you were in like the bowels of the house, and it was
That's
this whole
right.
crazy. And I remember when she said to me like she didn't know what half of the rooms in the house, what was in
I
them.
wasn't kidding.
And I was like, how do you live in like, that's not a house. This is like, I've seen this movie. This movie does not end up well. You know, it doesn't turn out good for anybody that's in here.
Well, have you met my life? But I remember this now that you brought it up. That panel, you asked me what was there, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We went through it. It led through the
the back of the
working
movie room and all
into
that.
the doll museum. You could come out.
Yeah, it was like a
Right?
secret passage.
Yeah.
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 That was
Oh,
fun
we
as a kid.
explored.
Wow.
It was super fun to explore that house because it
Yeah.
was like unexplored by all of you guys that lived there. Like the only people, it was the staff that knew where everything was.
Yeah.
You know, they
Right.
knew where to like bury a body. And that's what I need to know. If I'm in a big place, I need to know this person that I kill, where do I put
Bury
him?
the body.
Yeah.
There's like a horror theme today. We're talking about horror films and
I'm so happy right
so
now.
I have a question for you, Brian. What is it like for you having a relationship with both of us now? Not me just being the younger brother and having had a relationship with Tori for 30 years?
Something like that.
36 years.
You don't need to really call us out.
No, sorry. Well, I mean, it is
Whatever.
oldish. So what is it like knowing both of us? Like, do you see similarities? Do you see differences?
Both. It's interesting. Like now that I know you as well as I do, it's way more intriguing now seeing the differences between the two of you. There are a ton of similarities, and I've said it to you before, like on the phone, that like you guys have certain like a work ethic and a thing that is you guys are so good at putting your mind to things and doing them and seeing them all the way through and finishing them, which is not a lot of people have that skill. But then at the same time, you guys are so incredibly different. Like you moved to Portland, got married, you have 2 kids. You know, Tori has 25 kids, something like that. You know, and she's traveled.
Same amount as you.
Same amount as me.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Fair.
far.
Fair.
I
Fair.
Think,
Yeah, got it.
yeah, I think you might beat me in this race one day, but we'll see.
Oh,
Let's not talk about that.
Sharna would be like,
That's right. Sharon would be like that.
Sharon and I have talked about
I'd
it,
actually
so
like that.
never mind.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to see how different you two are, and I talk about it all the time with the kids. Like I know for me, with my kids, they are who they are. Like it doesn't. I really don't have much effect on that. The only effect that I have is whether they are good people or not in being who they are. But they could not be more different. And they've each got their own things going on. And it's really fun as a parent to see, because I can't wait to see who they become.
yeah.
Like Cash now is 22 years old. And he, you know, I run into people and they're like, oh, I ran into your son the other night at a place. And it's like, what the fuck was he doing out there? Like, that doesn't seem okay. And then I realized, like, oh my God, he's 22. Like, of course, when I was 22, I was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I rarely ever got back to my parents. You know, I was doing my own thing. So it's interesting now to see it with you too, because you grew up in very similar ways, but you are such different people. Why do you think that is? Are there things that that you experienced still being together that affected you in different ways? Like, I'd love to kind of get into that, because you're very different in the way you emotionally handle things. Like what you've talked about, you've talked about hitting bottom and alcoholism and drug addiction and all of that. And you really got to a point where you felt like, I know who I've always been, and I'm not being truthful to myself. And so you climbed your way up out of it at a young age, at a time where most people don't make such choices like that. They don't really steer themselves in a new direction, life path wise. And you did. I mean, you became a life coach, which is incredible. And then Tori, just from the talking that we do, I know for you, later on in life, like you're starting to find these things and find your strength and your power and standing up to people and being the person that you want to be. But it happened at completely different times in your lives. Why do you think that is?
I just have to call out, we have 12 kids amongst the 3 of us right now.
That's a team of some sort.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
totally.
That's a reunion. Barbecue.
Jesus, that's a Marvel universe.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to take Brian's question first?
Nope, already forgot.
It's a really fascinating question and answer, because even in coaching people and hearing about siblings, people experience things very differently, even though they grew up in the same exact household, had the same parents. And I've seen it too, where I've heard people where they've had one experience and someone else, it's like, yeah, I understand that, but it was different, right? And I think no one else on the planet understands what it was like growing up the way that we did, other than Tori.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really special. That is a special thing. Like, no one else knows the joy, the fun, the pain, the good, the bad, all of it.
Right.
Within that, we might have different experiences or different recollections of things, and we have a lot of similar recollections of things. But I do think it's a lot of nature versus nurture. I think we all sometimes get squeezed and shaped and molded into who we are based on the environment that we're around.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also who we came in as. And for you, I was thinking about this the other day. I have such a distinct memory of your creativity and your sensitivity. And I don't know if people always get to see those sides of you. I mean, certainly creativity, right? But the sensitive, you would write poetry. You would draw things and write things. And there was this like really, really, really deep, soft side. And, then you become a teenager and you start to like whatever sex you like. And then, it morphs into like life and then relationships. And the more that grows and happens, the more we get carved. And sometimes it feels for the better. Sometimes going through it feels for the worse. But I was thinking about you and wondering, do you still feel that part of you, like that? Like, I just remember you in school bringing home these drawings, and or there were paintings or the writings that you would do. Is she there and present right now?
Twofold. So is she there? Yes. Is she present right now? Getting back to that, in progress. I think at different points in my life, I have kind of circled back within myself while dealing with the external of everything happening in life. But that is who I am at the heart of it. And that's when I find like really great inner peace and joy when I tap back into that. And I mean, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but I have felt like the externals and leave such an imprint on you. And just as you get older, the outside world kind of making you feel less than in certain ways starts to dim that whatever you instinctively gravitated towards. Sometimes, not always, but yeah.
One of the things that I've always known is that you are genuinely one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. Like you absolutely care for the people around you and will bend over backwards to do whatever it is you can to help somebody.
That's just because I'm flexible.
So, but I think unfortunately, and you've talked about it too, your tendency to people please. I think that's something that both of you picked up and it became a big part of your life. And I think you became aware of that earlier than Tori did. But like I've watched Tori go from just this incredibly sweet, kind of shy person to, because of insecurities and growing up and just life, kind of, hiding behind the fact that you are funny and you're witty. And so kind of putting that out first, and then people missing a bit of the inside Tori that is amazing. You're an amazing one. And we had this conversation on the phone before. Like, I think it's so easy sometimes to get lost or caught up in what other people think, or what is the most PC way of doing something, and you then kind of put your own feelings and your own life aside to make sure that you fit within that box. But it seems now that you are in a place of realizing, like, oh, I can have both. Like, I can have that box where I'm still kind of PC and I work within a thing, but I can also be fully who I am, and and embrace that and show that to people. But it's a hard road. I know for me, especially with 90210, that was so hard to find, because we grew up in front of people. Like, we went through some of the toughest times in your life in front of millions of people. We were just open for criticism and for things. And thank God social media didn't exist. And then because oh my God, I'd be a wreck. Can you imagine if it was like every time we went somewhere, like pictures were up immediately, and then people were commenting on, instead of like, there were 2 photographers that would be out front of Roxbury and they'd ask to take your picture, and then they'd develop them like Peter Parker and sell them to a magazine, and you'd see it a week later, and it was like they got one shot of us with Mark Wahlberg like flipping off the camera, and that's lived for like 35 years. Now it's like when I pick up my phone and there's just tons and tons and tons of pictures.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I think at that moment we were like, oh, we're so high up, it's dark glass. We thought we were being so funny smart for the 4 of us.
We were like, oh, it's I remember that. Let's flip them off. They'll never see it. This is so funny. Like, we thought we were so cool. And we're like flipping them off, and it was like clear as day. This picture of us like flipping them off. It was so ridiculous. We got away with so much stuff. Thank God, because it was the 90s. Like, things didn't exist the way they do now. I always say that our show I honestly do not believe that our show would have like ran or survived or anything if it was on at this point in time. Like, our show worked because you couldn't fact check it. There was no internet. So we just took whatever, like artistic, creative licensing we wanted to on making up schools and making up neighborhoods and making up things. Like, we could say whatever we wanted to, and nobody knew. They'd come to Beverly Hills and be like, oh my God, I hope to see these things.
This is true. I mean, also to that point, like the thing we've shared that we're like, no one else can fully understand. It was just the 2 of us. We understand. Brian and I have that as well. The 8 of us.
Yeah.
Like, we grew up 10 years.
Yeah.
And
on the show.
That, no one can truly understand our experience if you didn't live within our little world.
It's true.
It is a family.
I was equated to like a plane crash, like survivors. They have that thing in common, and they all feel that bond though together of like, oh my God, we survived something that was crazy. And we survived something that was crazy. Like 90210 was a decade-long like experiment in like not going nuts while you're like trapped in a box together. It was the most insane experience. So we always have that like memory of it and that connection and like remembering going to like Universal Florida and all these like ridiculous things that we were doing. But nobody else was doing those. Like it's insane. And you guys have the same thing. I mean, you guys grew up in a household that is not like any other household for kids I've ever heard of. I've never had a friend that grew up the way you guys did, ever.
You're looking at 2 right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying other than you 2.
Yeah.
I have to go back when you said like surviving a plane crash, like the trauma of the bond, I instantly went back to that place of feeling like that gut, like shame, like, oh no, are people going to be like, are they not grateful? Are they not like, we wish we could have been them. I'm still like in my head, like, well, but you're completely correct.
Yeah.
But it's always fighting against what we've been almost ingrained upon us to be like, you know, what others are going to think, what they're going to say, and how they're going to be like, oh,
why do you
like,
think you got into the habit of doing that? Because you've done that for a large period of your life. Like you easily slip into that space of people pleasing, of like, oh my God, how is that? You know, is that being misconstrued, or is someone going to think that I'm ungrateful or something? Where do you think that comes from?
I know where it comes from. It literally takes me back to first grade, where we went to a private school, but I just remember getting, at the time I would never say bully, but I guess it's a form of bullying that, see, I don't even feel like entitled to the I
shouldn't say
just
it.
own
Right.
it.
Okay.
Just in case I hurt somebody's feelings.
Oh, here's the little rich girl. And like, it was constantly like, oh, your dad has all this money and you guys have a limo, and being made fun of, that I was like, in my head, like, I just want to fit in. I want to be accepted. And I just wish they could take that out and just know me. Of course, I didn't know that at age 6. Like, I didn't know what I was fighting for. I was just like, I just wanted to blend in.
Mm-hmm.
I remember now, like, just hearing you talking, like, I remember the first couple years of the show that everybody was really harping on the concept that Tori was only doing the show because of who your dad was and all of that. And so
Which
it was that
true.
It was that sort of like Nepo
Initially.
baby thing.
Which is true, but like the
it's
nepotism.
true, but it's not.
Which
it was
Nepo
so-
babies, everyone, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go on. No, go on.
You're like, I'm used to it. I've been dealing with it my whole life. I feel like nepotism. So when Rand like said, I'm going to get into acting and I'm going to do this, I was like, okay. I think it was with Sunset Beach I first said it.
It was Malibu Shores. That was my first.
It was Malibu Shores, correct.
Yep.
And I said, okay, just be aware. Like the nepotism thing, they're never going to let it go. It's going to be full force. And I feel like you didn't have quite
I didn't
this-
get it.
No.
I didn't
okay.
get it like you did.
Yes,
there
and
was.
I still get it. Like,
Well, but
I feel
I mean-
like everybody's like, oh, nepotism. People still...
In defense of that argument, though, you were on one of the biggest shows that's ever been on television. So, of course, you're going to be talked about more than Randy was. I mean, 90210 is like an iconic...
It was a phenomenon.
It was a phenomenon from 1990 to 2000. And it completely changed the face of TV and what had been done before it. There had never been a show like it. A teen drama had never come around like it. People nobody had ever experienced that, and nobody had ever experienced the rise of that demographic of people that were watching. Like there weren't shows where people were like, oh my God, the teenagers are loving this thing. It was all like 18 to 34. Like it was all that older demographic, and our show changed that. So and I'm not saying that it's right. But, you can't be shocked, I don't think, that people come down on you
because there were
harder
just so
for
many
your
more
acting
eyes
career.
than
Yeah,
my
it was
career.
While I understand what you're saying, this is going to come across wrong, but
No.
it was a different time.
Yeah.
I do feel like females got it worse than males at the time.
Oh, for sure.
I could see that.
For
So
sure.
it-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They were, and then, kind of the nepotism thing wasn't running rampant. Now it's like, oh, Nepo babies. Like, it became a thing, and I never saw anyone else get it. They would get it and make the connection between, someone that had a famous parent. But they'd be like, oh, that's cool. They never were like, ooh, no.
Who would you compare, though, at that point in time?
Okay.
Whose career would you compare to your career? Being on the biggest thing on television and one of the most famous things in the world, whose career would you compare yours to? I mean, and I'm just saying, like, for your defense to be like, I don't know who else was going through that. It's like, well, who else could have been or should have been? Like, thinking back to that time, I can't think of some young actress that had some, major.
I can't think back to that time, but I know now when you see
Oh,
it,
now
there's
it's a whole
so many
different
people
thing.
in music,
For sure.
in TV, in film, and it's just sort of like it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
But you got it tough, and I wonder, just making the correlation, I wonder how much. Like, we grew up in the spotlight, right? Even if we were just going to go to a family dinner, we would go to a restaurant called Chasen's. There would be photographers in front. You would be in there, and the Hiltons would be there, and O.J. Simpson would be there, and a lot of other, like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and other actors. And so there was this, I think we learned early on to feel what it was like, because, you know, when cameras are in your face and, it's sort of like, oh, okay, people are looking at me, or they're paying attention, or even our father, right? Like, people coming up and talking about his shows. So there's an awareness of attention being on you, and then you started acting at an early age. So by 5, there's more attention because you're on set and you're being treated a certain way. And now you're on a hit show, you know that you're Aaron Spelling's daughter. So I would imagine that you had the same thing that I felt. It's like, I need to do the best that I can. I can't mess up a line. Everyone here, my heart would beat fast being on 90210, because I remember thinking, oh, everyone's going to think if I mess up that I'm not good, and I only got this because of my father. And so that would run through my mind so much that I think
it's debilitating a little bit. You have to really push past that.
Right. And then the fame thing. So when you walk in, people are looking at you. You both are aware, oh, people are looking at me. So you start to see yourself from how other people are viewing you. And you've even said this before. Like, I just wanted to be regular. I just wanted to fit in. I didn't want to stand out.
I wanted to blend in. Yeah.
You said you wanted to blend in.
It's funny though, like, I remember, because the question was asked a lot of me when I was younger, of what's it like with Tori being on set, and I remember, not just from me, from Ian, from like anybody that was doing press, everybody was, their answers were the same, that you would never know that your dad was the producer and the boss of that show, because you never once acted like it when you were on set. You were absolutely a part of the team. But then in your own head, you had a different view of it. You had insecurities that
to a default, like at first. And then I think as we grew and I feel like the last few seasons, I mean, I feel like you and I, we really connected, and we were producing, like,
yeah, for sure.
And we really were into that creative process behind the scenes. It wasn't just like phoning it in, so they say, when people have gone so long, you're like, it's old hat. But yeah, I forgot the question.
So we used to, Tori and I would like end up rewriting dialogue on a lot of scenes. Like, we get scenes and we go, that doesn't work. And people would come to us and they go, this scene doesn't work. Okay, just give me 5 minutes. So we'd be rewriting stuff.
I'm so glad you're saying that, because I never wanted to step on anyone's toes and say,
ever.
Do you remember? Well, in the beginning, but in the end, we really stepped into our power of being like, it's pride. Like, we're proud of this show and these characters.
Well, and the reality was too, I think, nobody knew the characters better than we did, because we'd been playing them for so long. So it's like, if I could instantly pick up a scene and go, this isn't David's voice, or this isn't Donna's voice, or this isn't Kelly's. Like, I knew as soon as, oh, this isn't Steve's voice. He would never speak that way. Like, he would never. So in doing rewrites and things like that, like, I really feel like we were speaking from the characters' voices, and we had a really good understanding of it. But our writers, they wrote that show in a lot of episodes of that. 35 a season, I think, at one point was our highest. They wrote a lot of episodes of that show
Near
over a
the
10-year
end, there was a
period.
disconnect, I feel like. We were on one side of the hill, they were on the other. And, out of respect, we would try to place a call to see about a rewrite. But I was saying, like, I haven't said this, like, in an interview or anything before because I didn't want other actors or cast members to be like, what do you mean? Like, I came to you guys to have it rewritten. But that's exactly it. In fact, I have one visual right now where we're, like, in the back with the arcade game. And it was like a scene. It was you and I think Jenny was in it. And we,
just rewrote it.
The dialogue.
We
it
did
wasn't
like a
fitting
page
for all-
one, just tear
all
apart.
3 characters.
Yeah.
And people would come to us and we'd be like, okay, got it.
See, so there's a pride for me in telling that story of like, because to me it's like, oh, we all worked really hard. But then I can tell that you are the opposite. You're like, oh, don't put yourself out there too much because you might be judged for it, or you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings
Exactly.
by saying those things.
And I can say it right now because I'm by your side, Will.
Right.
In front of you.
Right, because Randy's bigger than the two of us, and so he'll fight them off. We've already established that. Okay, so now this is a question, and I talked to Randy about this before, and this came up in the reboot of the show. You and I didn't speak for a long time.
Yeah.
It was about 18 years. Like, we wrapped and then didn't speak to each other. But then that was part of the story in episode 1 of the reboot. Not why, but just like, oh my God, we haven't spoken in so long. And then it was just kind of like brushed over and it was next. How did that happen? How do you, in your view, like, I want your take on how you think that happened.
So, I can, like, in my head, like, go back to everything and I can see it play out. So I can remember our last conversation and the last thing we said to each other before those 18 years.
You were crying.
I was crying.
On set, and you were like, I'm afraid that we're going to lose touch. And I was like, we'll never lose touch.
It was
Don't worry
at the
about
wrap
it.
party, but yep.
No, that was on set. We did the wedding scene. And then we had the dance, and that was the last thing that we had shot. And that day when we finished,
That night?
you were crying.
Wait, are you sure there was no wrap party? There was no party?
There might have been a wrap party, but that
I
conversation
remember
happened on
crying.
set.
And that we were going to lose touch because we were so close. We had grown up together and we were such good friends. And it was like, it was almost like going through a divorce or something.
Sure.
Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, time to move on. But also, like, I'm losing that human I'm with every day and have that connection with. And what's going to happen now? And you were like, I remember you reassuring me that it was going to be okay. And I remember you said, we're going to always be together. We're even going to all go on vacations together. Say, I add it all. We're even going to go on vacations together.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last time we spoke for 18 years.
So what
Why?
happened?
Back at you. Why?
No, I'm asking you sort of what your... So,
Oh,
okay, so...
I know. Yeah.
Do you want me to answer why first, or because I'll tell you my view of it, and I think this is the interesting thing is that stories, there's always two sides
Right.
to the story. So I don't feel like my truth is any more valid than your truth, but I can share my experience, and what I experienced was, I remember like going by Vincent's house to see you like multiple days after we had wrapped and like really trying to like keep a connection going. And then literally it got to the point where I just never got that from you. And then I remember being at the 90210 DVD release party.
I was scared to see you.
And you were married to Dean.
Yep.
At that point, and I was there with Megan, which we were just dating. It was early on, and you guys got there, and you never said hello to me once. Like, I kept hearing like, "Oh, Tori and Dean are over there. Oh, they're over there." That, like, I just kept missing you guys, and then you were gone for the night. So it was just this thing of like, oh my God, she just does not want to be my friend anymore. Like, I genuinely felt that. Because I felt like I've lived up to my half of the bargain. Like, I've really tried to visit her. I would call you. It was a thing. And when that wasn't reciprocated at some point, you just kind of, you give up and you assume like, okay, well maybe something's going on and so she needs time, or I don't know. I don't know what was going on in your life. So that was my experience from my side. Now, what was your experience from your side?
Your experience is pretty right on. So from memory, I remember Vince, and so the listeners, Vincent Young played Noah on 90210, and we dated in real life. And great guy. It was a complicated relationship, and I feel like on my part, I lost myself in that relationship again, as I had done previously in relationships and then went on to do in relationships. I'm going to correct that one day. I'm working. Look, you're both looking at me, and all like each of you, I side text. You each give me advice.
But we're not looking at you. At least I know I'm not in any sort of a judgmental way.
Not at all.
I know,
like I'm really curious because I love the fact
out.
that we now can talk about these things. That like we're sitting in front of each other, and we're no longer. It hasn't been 18 years since we've seen. And we text, and we're back to like having that relationship that we had. So I love the fact that we can have this conversation now, but we won. Like it's a victory lap that we get to take on this. Like we made it through, and here we are again.
Victorious.
I know,
you may say my name now.
You hate your name. I get it. So let's go back to you. Let's go back to the experience of that.
Okay. Yes. So. That relationship was not a good relationship for me. And I feel like towards the end, I got wrapped up in a relationship and things weren't good. And not that, he necessarily did anything wrong. It just is something that I wish I had valued myself worth more to be like, okay, you're showing up in a certain way. If the other person isn't showing up in the same way, get out of the relationship, and that's all it is. And Vince and I have a great relationship to this day. So, but yeah, I think I was at that point. I remember him saying, if I remember it correctly, that he said, Brian stopped by, and he told me once. And then I vividly remember being up in his bedroom, and he said, you were at the front door, and I panicked, but I'm not sure now why I panicked. I was like, say I'm not home. And just so the listeners understand, we didn't live together, but I was at his house, many days of the week.
Yeah.
Except the days when he wanted to go out.
So Vanessa and I were dating at that point, and she lived right up the street. So it was so easy for me.
Right.
Oh, that's
I
why.
drove past Vince's house every day, like twice a day at least. And so like I would pull in because there was that little driveway that was kind of right off the street, and so I could see if Tori's car was parked there, and I knew she was there. So then I would stop by in hopes of like, oh, okay, no, everything's gonna be fine, But it was easy. It's not like it was easy, but it was also then it became blatantly obvious. Like, okay, you're there, I can see your car, but like you're not like I'm knocking at the door, I'm coming over, you're not responding, you're not showing, like you want anything to do with me.
Which is the opposite, but I understand how that was perceived. And then, I mean, to the point where, going back, I forgot at that time, yes, you were in a relationship, and am I allowed to talk about? No.
So you can talk about whatever you want.
Okay, sorry. That relationship was not hard. It was frustrating to see.
My relationship with Vanessa
Correct.
was frustrating for you to see.
Was frustrating to see from a friend's perspective that loves someone so much. And you know this because you've been, right there with all of my relationships that have frustrated you. And see what's going on and just see how, your friend is treated and not feel okay with it, but knowing that you can't really say anything because the person has to go through their own experience and go on their journey. And you also, I'm never the person you don't want to. I've had friends that blatantly stand up and say they don't like someone.
Right.
Sound familiar?
Doesn't work out very well.
Sound familiar to you? About someone in a relationship? Okay. Anyway.
No.
But you either have like, okay.
There's a lot of subtext going on
totally.
here.
Okay. For instance, the two of you are very different in that respect. If you have an opinion about what's going on in someone's life with somebody they're, choosing to be with personally, Rand is really good at kind of being neutral but seeing both sides and navigating that. And if you think that it's not the right situation, you just blatantly call it out, correct? Yeah.
My filter's shot at this age. Like I don't have time. It's
gone.
Yeah.
No, you never had that filter. Not when it came to
I'm
my
like the
personal
old man that yells at
relationships.
kids like, "Get off my lawn!" Like that's me at this point.
But it sounds like always was.
He always was. Like my protector. in a
Maybe,
way.
yeah, always super protective of Tor, super protective.
And I notoriously, historically, I'm just going to put my name in everything now just because your name.
Notoriously?
Your name, yeah.
Notorious,
Totally.
Historically.
Yeah.
Because now I'm just so mad you said Tori Spelling at the top of the show. But I'm just kidding. Didn't put myself in the best situations and relationships. And, I either had friends that were like, okay, we'll deal with it and kind of not say anything, but be there for you when you need us, or friends that were like, no, this is not okay. So I think I shied away from you because you were not a fan of the relationship, correct? You had a good working relationship with Vince and everything, but I don't think you felt like our personal relationship was something that was correct for me.
No, I didn't, but I wasn't.
I mean, you still showed up.
I still showed up.
obviously-
Yeah, I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't in a place of like I don't agree with this, so I can't be around. I need to separate myself. Like I had come to terms with the fact of like I don't think this is a good relationship. But you're my sister, so there's no. It's like there. To me, there is no cutoff from one to the other. Like it's
Right. And what I'm saying is you're true to that always from jump, and you're consistent. What I'm saying is my process was different, and I would shy away from those that would really fight for me.
Do you think then that carried over to your marriage with Dean?
Absolutely.
Or was it your insecurity of that it had been so long, even though you were in something new now that didn't push and pull the same way? You were like, because I know you, like you shy away from confrontation. I know that.
1,000%.
So at that point, it had been a few years since we had spoken. So I wonder how much that time played in you going, oh, well, I can't do it now. It's been 2 years. Like I can't say hello now because then he's going to be like, where the fuck have you been? And it's going to be a big thing.
Probably, right?
So it wasn't the Dean factor. Again, it's the me factor. And what you just said is 1,000% correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Then I'm like, oh my God, now it's been too long. Oh my God, now it's just layered in and I never stopped thinking about you, never stopped wanting to reach out and reconnect, and just, it's my shit. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I don't want you to be.
No,
it's
I
not
am
about
sorry
you
because
being sorry. I just think that it's important to look back on those things because now it's like, who the fuck do I want to be? I don't want to be that person.
I don't. I'm having a hard time still getting out of that role
But
that I put on myself.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Having a hard time is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that you, to me, recognize things and go, I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm going to bust my ass and I'm going to do what is like uncomfortable and not normal for me. Something that a way that you've been through a long period of time now in your life. So it's a lot to undo. And we talk about all the time, it's living consciously again. It's like, it's easy to let the things that you did when you were younger just kind of rear their ugly head and kind of take control, and you just be a slave to it.
Right. I mean, those are our default patterns that come up, especially in relationships, as you know, in various
It's
romantic
the first
relationships.
fucking thing that comes up. Like, my triggers, oh my God, they're there instantly. Now, and I bust my ass every single day to work through things, but those triggers are quickly there.
Yeah.
But it's now going, okay, I know that those things are patterns that I don't want to have anymore. So I'm going to take a breath, which we just talked about.
Right.
I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to go, okay, how do I really want to be in this situation? How do I really want to handle this situation? What's the type of person I now want to be? Mm-hmm. So it's reprogramming. And that's not an easy thing to do, Tori. It's not.
It's not. It's relearning and reteach. It's hard, and the older you get. But I dislike when people say, "Oh, you can't change," because I don't believe.
I don't believe
in
that's
that
true.
either.
Or I can't. We all repeat the past, and through families and everything, and it's generational. And I don't believe that either. I feel like you can change and make a conscious, like you're saying, effort to change or be different or improve or whatever's right for you. But, the phone, you both know the phone is something that I've had a fear. You know more since I was little. Like, and now we're going to all age ourselves. But it's oldish. So back when you would pick up a phone to get information, you had to call 411 and get an operator and be like, can I have the number for a restaurant or a store? And even that,
your voice would change.
What,
I would
really?
look at her.
You'd get so insecure.
Because they would go, hi.
How can I help you?
How can I help you? And she'd go, hi.
Right. Totally.
Hi. Would you
like panicking to hang up?
Be willing to give me the information for? And I was looking at her, and then she would look at me and go,
I don't feel worthy of getting the number. Please give it to me. Yeah, it's like such a. I just said worth. There's something connected to worth.
Yeah.
That is that. So. When I'm ordering at a restaurant, you both know I can be like talking like that, and then when they come, I'm like, "Hi, excuse me, can I?" I'm like, "What am I doing? Like, not cool at 51 now. Like, it was maybe that was acceptable or cute at 18."
Do you notice when you're doing it now?
Oh, yeah, but I think I've always noticed, but
maybe you're more aware
now. Correct.
My God, in stereo sound.
I mean, it's like we're related. It's strange,
right? Like you guys know each other.
But even now, so like, but like, Bri prefers, like, sometimes we'll be texting about something and then he'll just pick up the phone and call.
He'll just call you. Like, my phone will just ring.
Yeah. And Randy's like, dude, I'm fucking working. Like, and I know you look at your phone, I can feel it and sense it as you're like in the middle of like working. And then I remember like, oh yeah, shit, Randy's got a job. He has like a 9 to 5. He can't just like pick up the phone whenever I call. But
this even happened like a couple months ago, and I had to check myself because I'm like, what am I doing? Like, we were texting on something, and then you just put the phone to call me about it. Yeah. And, I saw the phone like light up in your name, and I'm like, I had that old, and it wasn't you. It's just that like trigger of like, the phone. And then I was like, this is not, what are you doing? Like, this isn't about him.
And then we had a great phone conversation.
Yeah, and then
once
I picked the phone, and
it
then
normally
we'd be talking,
happens.
and I'm like, felt so good about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question. What feels unsafe about confrontation?
Unsafe.
That is a good question.
Hey, if you're going through something right now, if you need additional support, then please reach out to me at randyspelling.com/help or go to my Instagram at randyspelling. Thanks.